The shovel hit something hard beneath the Arizona soil, sending a sharp vibration up through Samuel Morrison's weathered hands. He paused, wiping the sweat from his brow as the desert sun beat down mercilessly on his small ranch just outside Tombstone. It was 1887, and Sam had been working this land for 3 years now, trying to forget the life he'd left behind. Trying to forget her. But as he knelt down and brushed away the red dirt, his heart stopped. There, gleaming in the harsh sunlight, was a silver locket, one he recognized instantly. His hands trembled as he lifted it from the earth, the delicate chain tangled with roots and time. With shaking fingers, he opened it, and there she was, Elena Vasquez, her dark eyes gazing up at him from the tiny photograph, just as beautiful as the day he'd given her this very locket. The day before, everything fell apart. Sam sank to his knees in the dirt, the locket clutched against his chest. How had it gotten here? Elena had been wearing it the last time he saw her, standing in the moonlight outside her father's hacienda in Santa Fe, tears streaming down her face as she begged him not to leave. "I have to go," he had whispered, his own voice breaking. "Your father will kill me if he finds out about us." "I'm just a ranch hand, Elena. You deserve so much more." "I don't care about any of that," she had cried, reaching for him. "I love you, Samuel. Only you." But he had turned away, climbing onto his horse and riding into the darkness. Carrying her heart-wrenching sobs with him into the night, he'd thought he was protecting her. He'd thought he was doing the right thing. Now, 3 years later, holding her locket in his calloused hands, he wondered if he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. Chapter 1. The letter that changed everything the next. Morning brought more than just the usual desert heat. Maria Santos, the elderly Mexican woman who delivered mail to the scattered ranches around Tombstone, rode up to Sam's modest adobe house with something that would shatter his carefully constructed solitude. "Sinner Morrison," she called out, dismounting from her tired mare. "I have a letter for you. It came all the way from Santa Fe." Sam's blood turned to ice. No one from Santa Fe knew where he was. He'd made sure of that when he had fled south, changing his name from Samuel Rodriguez back to his mother's maiden name of Morrison. He'd wanted to disappear completely from Elena's world, to become a ghost so she could move on and find happiness with someone worthy of her. With trembling hands, he took the envelope. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the return address made his knees weak. Vasquez Hacienda, Maria, Mexico Territory. Maria must have seen the color drain from his face. Sabine Senor. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," he managed, though his voice sounded hollow even to his own ears. "Thank you for bringing this." After Maria rode away, Sam sat on his porch steps, staring at the letter for what felt like hours. Finally, as the sun began its descent toward the western mountains, he found the courage to break the seal. "Mr. Morrison, you do not know me, but I am Father Miguel Santos of the Church of San Miguel in Santa Fe. I am writing to inform you of a matter of utmost importance concerning Miss Elena Vasquez. Through circumstances I cannot fully explain in a letter, I have learned of your ... connection to Miss Elena and have taken the liberty of discovering your whereabouts. I write to you because Elena is in grave danger. I believe you are the only one who can help her. Don Vasquez has arranged a marriage for his daughter to Carlos Mendoza, a wealthy but cruel man who has already shown his violent nature toward Elena. The wedding is set for 1 month from the date of this letter, but there's more you must know, Samuel. Elena has been searching for you these 3 years. She never gave up hope that you would return for her. She still wears your ring on a chain around her neck and speaks your name in her prayers each night. If you ever loved her truly, you will. Come, time is running short. In God's grace, Father Miguel Santos, Pete S. Elena buried your locket in the spot where you first kissed, by the old oak tree behind the chapel. How it came to be in Arizona soil, I cannot say, but perhaps love finds a way to call us home. The letter fell from Sam's numb fingers, fluttering to the dusty porch. Elena was in danger. She was being forced to marry another man. Somehow, miraculously, impossibly, she still loved him. But how could he face her after what he'd done? How could he look into those dark eyes and explain why he'd abandoned her without a word? Why he'd let her believe he'd stopped loving her? As if in answer to his tortured thoughts, a memory surfaced of their last real conversation, the one that had haunted him for 3 years. Chapter 2. The memory that burned, 3 years earlier. Santa Fe. "Meet me by the oak tree tonight, Elena," had whispered, pressing a folded note into his hand as he worked in her father's stables. "Please, Samuel, we need to talk." We had almost said no. For weeks, he'd been trying to distance himself from Don Vasquez's daughter, knowing their secret meetings could only lead to heartbreak. She was the treasured only child of one of the wealthiest landowners in the territory, destined to marry into another powerful family. He was nobody, a half-Mexican ranch hand whose mother had died when he was 12, leaving him to fend for himself, but her eyes had held such desperate hope that he couldn't refuse. That night, beneath the ancient oak tree behind the small chapel. On the Vasquez property, Elena had done something that changed everything. She had kissed him. "I love you," she had whispered against his lips. "I've loved you since the first day you came to work for Papa. I don't care about anything else." "Elena, you don't understand," he had protested, even as his heart soared. "Your father would never then will run away," she had said, her eyes fierce with determination. "Tonight, we can go to California or Texas or anywhere, as long as we're together." It had been the most beautiful and terrifying moment of his life. This incredible woman, educated, refined, destined for greatness, was willing to give up everything for him. "I can't ask you to do that," he had said, cupping her face in his hands. "You'd regret it. In a year, maybe 2, you'd wake up and realize what you'd lost." "Never," she had sworn. "I would never regret choosing love." He had kissed her then, pouring all his love and longing into that moment beneath the stars. And then, like a fool, he had made her a promise he couldn't keep. "Give me time," he had said. "Let me figure out a way to make this work. I want to do this right, Elena. I want to be worthy of you." She had smiled through her tears and pressed the silver locket into his hands. This was my mother's, she had whispered. "I want you to have it. When you're ready to come back for me, bring it with you." But instead of fighting for her, instead of finding a way to make himself worthy, he had run. Like a coward, he had fled in the night, leaving her to wonder what she had done wrong. Chapter 3. The journey north now, sitting on his porch in Arizona. With Father Miguel's letter in his lap, Sam made the hardest decision of his life. He was going back to Santa Fe. He was going to fight for Elena even if it killed him. But first, he had a stop to make. The next morning, he rode into Tombstone and made his way to the office of Sheriff John Slaughter. The two men had developed a mutual respect over the past 3 years, and Sam knew he could trust the lawman with the truth. "Sheriff," Sam said, removing his hat as he entered the office, "I need to tell you something about my past." Slaughter looked up from his paperwork, studying Sam's serious expression. "Sounds important. Sit down and tell me what's on your mind." For the next hour, Sam laid out the whole story, his real name, his connection to the Vasquez family, and why he'd fled to Arizona. He told the sheriff about Elena and the marriage she was being forced into. "So you see," Sam concluded, "I'm not the man you thought I was. My real name is Samuel Rodriguez, and I'm going back to Santa Fe to stop a wedding, Sheriff." Slaughter leaned back in his chair, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Son, I've known men from all walks of life, and I've learned that a man's past matters less than what he does with his present. You've been nothing but honest and hard-working since you came here. If you need to go north and fight for the woman you love, then that's what you need to do." "Thank you, Sheriff," Sam said, relief flooding through him. But Samuel Slaughter continued, his expression growing serious. "If this Carlos Mendoza is as dangerous as that priest says, you're going to need help. I have some contacts in Santa Fe good men who don't take kindly to bullies. Let me write you a letter of introduction." 3 days later, Sam was on the trail north, traveling light but carrying everything that mattered. His father's Colt .45, Sheriff Slaughter's letter, Father Miguel's correspondence, and most importantly, Elena's silver locket. As he rode, he composed a dozen different speeches in his head, trying to find the words to explain 3 years of silence. How do you tell the woman you love that you left because you thought you weren't good enough? How do you ask for forgiveness when you're not sure you deserve it? The miles passed slowly, each one bringing him closer to a reckoning he both longed for and dreaded. Santa Fe looked exactly the same as Sam remembered, with its adobe buildings glowing golden in the afternoon sun and the Sangre de Cristo Mountains standing sentinel in the distance. But as he rode through the familiar streets, everything felt different. It was no longer the uncertain young man who had fled in the night. 3 years of hard work and desert solitude had changed him, hardened him, had given him a confidence he'd never possessed before. He found the Church of San Miguel, easily enough, was the oldest church in the city, its ancient walls holding centuries of prayers and secrets. Father Miguel was waiting for him in the courtyard, as if he'd known Sam would come. Samuel Rodriguez, the priest said, his weathered face creasing into a smile. Or should I say Morrison? Thank you for coming. Did I? You know it was me? Sam asked, dismounting from his tired horse. Alina described you perfectly, Father Miguel replied. She's spoken of little else these 3 years. Tall, dark hair, with just a touch of curl, eyes the color of sage, and hands that could gentle the wildest horse. She said you had the kindest smile she'd ever seen. Sam's heart clenched. Where is she now? The priest's expression grew grave, locked in her father's house, preparing for a wedding she doesn't want. Carlos Mendoza arrived yesterday with his men. He's not a patient man, Samuel. The wedding has been moved up to tomorrow night. Tomorrow. Sam's blood ran cold. But your letter said a month? Plans changed when Don Vasquez learned that Alina has been refusing to eat, refusing to cooperate. Mendoza threatened to call off the engagement unless the wedding happened immediately. He's already paid the bride price $30,000 and a promise to consolidate their land holdings. Sam felt his hands clench into fists. Alina was being sold like cattle, reduced to a business transaction between greedy men. I need to see her, he said. That won't be easy. The hacienda is heavily guarded, and Mendoza has brought his own men-rough types who won't hesitate to shoot first and ask questions later. But there might be a way. Father Miguel led Sam into the church, where the cool air and familiar scent of candles and incense provided some comfort. They walked to a small office behind the altar, where the priest pulled out a detailed map of the Vasquez property. Elena's room is here, on the second floor of the main house, he said, pointing to a spot on the map. There's an old pepper tree. Outside her window, you used to climb it when you were courting ... her. The guards patrol the grounds. But they don't watch the tree closely, because they don't think anyone would be foolish enough to attempt such a dangerous climb. They underestimate the lengths a man will go to for love, Sam said grimly. There's something else, Father Miguel continued. Lena's maid, Lucia, is loyal to her. She's been helping Alina resist this marriage. If you can get Lucia's attention, she might be able to help you reach Alina. As night fell over Santa Fe, Sam prepared for the most important mission of his life. He cleaned his gun, checked his rope, and most importantly, he placed Elena's locket in his shirt pocket, right over his heart. Chapter 5. The climb. The Vasquez hacienda sprawled across several acres on the outskirts of town. Its whitewashed walls, glowing softly in the moonlight, Sam approached from the east, staying low and moving silently through the scrub brush and cottonwood. Trees that bordered the property, just as Father Miguel had warned. The place was crawling with guards. Sam counted at least 6 men patrolling the grounds, all armed and alert. But they were looking for threats coming through the main gates or over the walls, not for a lovesick fool climbing a pepper tree. The ancient tree stood exactly where Sam remembered it, its gnarled branches reaching toward Elena's second-floor window, like the arms of an old friend welcoming him home. He had climbed this tree dozens of times during their secret courtship, though never with so much at stake as he began his ascent. Memories flooded back. Elena's delighted laughter the first time he'd appeared at her window like some romantic hero from a storybook. The way she'd looked in the candlelight, her dark hair flowing over her shoulders as she leaned out to kiss him. The promises they'd whispered to each other beneath the stars. A branch creaked ominously under his weight, and Sam froze, waiting to see if the sound had attracted attention. When no guards appeared, he continued climbing, his heart pounding with each foot he gained. Finally, he reached the level of Elena's window. The wooden shutters were closed, but a thin line of light showed around the edges. She was awake. Carefully, quietly, he tapped on the wood with his knuckle 3 short taps. 2 long ones, then 3 short again. It was the code they'd used. Years ago, taken from a romantic novel Elena had been reading, the light inside flickered, and he heard soft footsteps approaching the window. Then Elena's voice, barely a whisper, "Who's there?" "It's me," Sam said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's Samuel."
Ow.
The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Then he heard the soft sob that nearly broke his heart. "Samuel, is it really? You? Yes, mi amor, I've come back for you." Shutters opened slowly, and there she was, Elena Vasquez, more beautiful than ever, despite the tears streaming down her face. Her dark hair was longer now, braided with ribbons of white lace preparation for tomorrow's unwanted wedding, but her eyes, those incredible dark eyes that had haunted his dreams, were exactly the same. "I thought you were dead," she whispered. I thought you'd forgotten me." "Never," Sam said, his voice breaking. "It's not for a single day, Elena. I've loved you every moment I've been away." She reached out tentatively as if she was afraid he might disappear and touched his face with trembling fingers. "You're real. You're really here." "I'm here, and I'm not leaving without you. Not this time. But Samuel, you don't understand. Tomorrow, I marry Carlos Mendoza. Papa has already signed the contracts. There are guards everywhere, and Carlos. Carlos is a dangerous man. If he finds you here, he'll kill you." "Then we'll have to make sure he doesn't find me," Sam said. "Lena, I have so much to explain, so much to apologize for. But right now, all that matters is getting you away from here." "How?" "Even if we could slip past the guards, Papa and Carlos would hunt us down. They have money, influence, men with guns." "Let me worry about that," Sam said. "Do you trust me?" Elena's eyes searched his face in the moonlight, and he saw the moment she made her decision. "With my life," she said. "Always with my life." Chapter 6. The plan. "Listen carefully," Sam whispered. "Tomorrow, during the wedding preparations, there will be chaos. Guests arriving, servants running around, everyone focused on the ceremony. That's when we make our move." "But the wedding isn't until evening," Elena protested. "Carlos has his men watching me constantly." "I know. That's why we need help from the inside. Is Lucia still loyal to you?" "Yes, but Samuel, I can't ask her to risk her life for us." "You're not asking." "I am." Sam pulled Father Miguel's letter from his pocket. "The priest who helped me find you, he has friends in Santa Fe. Good men who believe a woman should have the right to choose her own husband. They're going to create a distraction during the ceremony." Elena's eyes widened. "What kind of distraction?" "The kind that will give us time to disappear," Sam said grimly. "But Elena, once we run, there's no going back. Your father will disown you. You'll lose everything, your inheritance, your place in society, the life you've always known." Elena's chin lifted with the defiant pride he remembered so well. "I told you 3 years ago that I didn't care about any of that. My answer hasn't changed. I told you 3 years ago that I wanted to be worthy of you," Sam said. "I spent every day since then trying to become the man you deserve." "You were always worthy," Elena said fiercely. "I never needed you to change. I just needed you to stay." The pain in her voice cut him deeper than any knife. "I know, and I'm sorry." "Me, more. I thought I was protecting you, but I was just protecting myself. I was afraid that if I stayed and fought for you, I'd fail. Afraid that your father would destroy me, or that you'd eventually realize you'd made a mistake. The only mistake was letting you leave," Elena said, tears flowing freely now. "Do you have any idea what these 3 years have been like? Wondering if you were alive or dead? Hoping every day that you'd come back, that you'd realize we belong together?" Sam's own eyes burned with unshed tears. "I came back, Elena. Here now, and I swear to you on my mother's grave that I will never leave you again." A sound from somewhere in the house made them both freeze. Heavy footsteps in the hallway, moving toward Elena's room. "It's Carlos," Elena whispered, her face going pale. "He comes to check on me every night. He says he wants to make sure his bride is ... pure. For their wedding night." Rage flooded through Sam like molten metal. The thought of that man intimidating Elena, threatening her, made him want to climb through the window and face Mendoza right now. "Hide," Elena urged. "Please, Samuel, if he sees you ... tomorrow," Sam said quickly. During the chaos before the ceremony, be ready. He was already swinging down through the branches when Elena called out softly, "Samuel, wait."
Ow.
He looked up, and she was leaning out the window, the moonlight turning her into something ethereal and beautiful. "I never stopped wearing your ring," she said, pulling a thin chain from beneath her nightgown. There gleaming against her throat. Was the simple silver band he'd given her not expensive, but bought with a month's wages and all the love in his young heart? The sight of it nearly undid him. "Elena ... Bring me home, Samuel," she whispered. "Bring me home to you." Chapter 7. The wedding day, the morning of Elena's wedding, dawned bright and clear. The kind of perfect New Mexico day that made the mountains look close enough to touch. But for Sam, hiding in the bell tower of the Church of San Miguel, it felt like the last day of the world. Father Miguel had provided him with a vantage point, from which he could see the entire Vasquez hacienda. Already, carriages were arriving for the evening ceremony. The wealthy families of Santa Fe came dressed in their finest clothes, bringing expensive gifts and false smiles. None of them cared that the bride was being forced into this marriage to them. It was simply good business. "They're treating it like a celebration," Sam muttered, watching another carriage roll up to the hacienda's front gate. "Because to them it is," Father Miguel said, climbing up into the bell tower with a basket of food.
Out.
The merger of two powerful families, the consolidation of land and wealth. They don't see Elena as a person, just as a commodity to be traded. Sam's hands clenched around his field glasses. "Where are your friends? The ones who are supposed to help us?" "They're in position," the priest assured him. "But Samuel, I must ask you one more time. Are you certain this is what Elena wants? Once you take her away from here, her old life will be over forever. It's what we both want," Sam said firmly. "I've wasted 3 years being afraid, not wasting another day." As the afternoon wore on, Sam watched the preparations intensify. A platform had been erected in the hacienda's central courtyard, decorated with white flowers and silk ribbons. Musicians tuned their instruments while servants rushed back and forth with trays of food and drink. And then, as the sun began its descent toward the western mountains, Sam saw him. Carlos Mendoza stepped out onto the platform, resplendent, in a black suit that probably cost more than Sam made in a year. He was a handsome man in a cold, calculated weight-all, and lean with carefully groomed black hair and a mustache that reminded Sam of a snake. But it was Mendoza's eyes that made Sam's blood run cold. Even from a distance, he could see the cruelty. There, the sense of ownership and entitlement. This was a man who took what he wanted and destroyed anyone who stood in his way. "That's him," Sam said, his voice deadly quiet. Father Miguel looked through his own field glasses and nodded grimly. "Carlos Mendoza. He owns 3 ranches, 2 silver mines, and half the politicians in the territory. They say he's killed 7 men in duels and twice as many in business dealings that went wrong." "Well, he's about to meet number 8, Sam said, checking his pistol. "Samuel, no. You kill him, you'll be hunted for the rest of your lives. There has to be another way." Before Sam could respond, a commotion at the hacienda caught his attention. Elena had appeared on the platform. The sight of her made his heart stop. She was wearing a wedding dress of white silk and lace, her dark hair piled high and crowned with orange blossoms. She should have looked beautiful. She did look beautiful, but her face was a mask of quiet desperation. Even from a distance, Sam could see that she'd been crying. Mendoza moved to her side and took her arm possessively, leading her to a pair of ornate chairs at one end of the platform. The message was clear. She belonged to him now. It's time, Sam said, standing and strapping on his gun belt. Wait, Father Miguel said. Look. Sam raised his field glasses again and saw something that made him smile for the first time all day. Lucia, Elena's faithful maid, was moving through the crowd of wedding guests, carrying a silver tray of champagne glasses. But Sam could see what the others couldn't. She was working her way systematically toward the platform. In each glass she served contained more than just champagne. Your friends work fast, Sam said approvingly. They've been planning this all day, Father Miguel replied. By the time the ceremony begins, half the wedding party will be so drowsy they won't be able to stand upright. The other half will be dealing with ... digestive issues. And the guards already taken care of? It's amazing how a few gold coins can convince men to look the other way at the right moment. Sam was already moving toward the bell tower's ladder. Then let's go bring Alina home. Chapter 8. The rescue of the chaos began just as Father Miguel had promised. As Sam made his way through the crowd of wedding guests, he could see the priest's plan taking effect. Men who had been standing straight and alert were now swaying on their feet, confused and disoriented. Others were hurrying toward the house, clutching their stomachs and looking distinctly unwell. Even Carlos Mendoza seemed affected, though he was trying to hide it. Sam could see the man wiping sweat from his forehead and gripping the arm of his chair for support. But Alina looked fine, which meant Lucia had managed to avoid serving her any of the doctored champagne. The clever maid had probably warned her mistress what was happening. Sam worked his way closer to the platform, using the confusion as cover. He was dressed as one of the servants Father Miguel had provided him, with the white shirt and black pants worn by the hacienda's staff. The growing chaos, no one gave him a second glance. When he was close enough to see Alina clearly, he whistled 3 short notes, 2 long ones, then 3 short again. Their old signal. Elena's head turned sharply, her eyes scanning the crowd. As she spotted him, her face went white with shock, then pink with hope. She started to rise from her chair, but Mendoza grabbed her wrist. Where are you going? He slurred, his voice thick and confused. I need some air, Alina said. The crowd, the heat. I feel faint. Sit down, Mendoza commanded. The ceremony starts in 5 minutes. But the ceremony was the last thing on anyone's mind. Half the wedding party was now incapacitated, and those who weren't were trying to figure out what was happening. Don Vasquez was shouting orders that no one seemed able to follow, and the musicians had stopped playing when their conductor collapsed into his music stand. Sam caught Lucia's eye and nodded toward the side of the platform. The clever woman immediately understood, dropping her tray with a loud crash that drew everyone's attention. Pardon, she cried out. I'm so sorry. The glasses, they slipped. People rushed to help clean up the broken glass. Sam vaulted onto the platform and moved swiftly toward Alina. Mendoza was too sick and confused to react quickly, and by the time he realized what was happening, Sam already had Elena's hand in his. Samuel! She breathed, her eyes shining with tears of relief. Come with me, he said. Now, stop. Mendoza struggled to his feet, reaching for the gun at his hip. Stop right there. But his movements were slow and clumsy, and Sam was all ready. Pulling Alina toward the edge of the platform, they jumped down together, landing hard but safely in the dirt below. The horses, Alina gasped. Samuel, they'll follow us. Already taken care of, Sam said, leading her toward a small gate in the hacienda's back wall. Father Miguel's friends have been very thorough. Behind them, they could hear Mendoza screaming for his men, but the guards who should have been protecting the wedding were nowhere to be seen. The few who did appear seemed more interested in finding a place to lie down than in pursuing runaway brides. They reached the gate, and Sam pulled it open to reveal 2 horses waiting in the shadows. His own faithful mount and a sleek mare that Alina recognized immediately. Esperanza, she said, stroking the mare's nose. Papa gave her to me on my 18th birthday. I thought I'd never see her again. A wedding gift from Father Miguel, Sam said, helping Alina into the saddle. Dodd, he thought you should have something familiar for the journey. Where are we going? Alina asked as they mounted up. Somewhere safe, Sam replied. Somewhere we can be married properly by someone who believes in love instead of business arrangements. As they rode away from the hacienda, leaving behind the yacht, chaos and confusion of Elena's ruined wedding, Sam felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. For 3 years, he had carried the burden of his cowardice, the guilt of abandoning the woman he loved. Now, finally, he was making it right. But their troubles were far from over. Carlos Mendoza was a powerful man with a long reach and a longer memory. He wouldn't let this insult go unanswered. Chapter 9. The pursuit. They rode hard through the night, heading south toward the mountains where Sam knew they could find shelter and time to rest. Elena proved to be as brave and capable as he remembered, never complaining about the pace or the rough terrain, as dawn broke over the New Mexico landscape. They stopped at a small stream to water the horses and rest for a few precious minutes. "Samuel," Elena said, sitting beside him on a fallen log, "I need to know something. Why did you leave?" The real reason. He had known this conversation was coming, had dreaded it for 3 years. Now, looking into her eyes in the soft morning light, he found the courage to tell her the truth. "Because I was afraid," he said simply. "Afraid I wasn't good enough for you. Afraid your father would destroy me. Afraid that one day you'd wake up and realize you'd thrown your life away on a nobody." Elena was quiet for a long moment, watching the water flow over the rocks in the stream. When she spoke, her voice was soft but firm. "Do you know what the worst part was? It wasn't the uncertainty or the loneliness or even the forced engagement to Carlos. It was thinking that our love hadn't meant as much to you as it had to me. It's thinking that you could just walk away from what we had together." "Elena, let me finish," she said, holding up her hand. "I spent 3 years convincing myself that I must have imagined the depth of our connection. That maybe what I thought was love was just ... infatuation or foolishness. But seeing you again, feeling the way my heart recognizes yours, I know it was real. It is real." Sam reached out and took her hand, marveling at how perfectly it fit. In his, it was the most real thing in my life. "Losing you nearly destroyed me." "Then why?" she asked. "Why didn't you fight for us?" "It's because I loved you too much to trap you in a life of poverty and struggle. Your father was right, had nothing to offer you but hardship." Elena turned to face him fully, her dark eyes flashing with anger. "My father was wrong, and so were you. Love isn't about what you can offer someone, Samuel. It's about what you choose to build together. I didn't need you to be wealthy or powerful. I needed you to believe in us enough to try." The truth of her words hit him like a physical blow. "I know that now. God help me, Elena. I know that now. I've spent 3 years in Arizona, working from dawn to dusk, building a ranch with my own hands. Do you know why? Because I thought, if I could become successful, if I could make something of myself, then maybe I'd be worthy of you. And what did you discover?" "That I was already worthy," Sam said, his voice breaking. "Not because of what I owned or how much money I had, but because of how much I loved you. Because love like ours doesn't come along every day, and when it does, you fight for it with everything you have." Elena smiled through her tears. "Here I thought you'd just gotten older and wiser." "Maybe a little of both," Sam said, leaning down to kiss her. "Elena, I know I don't deserve another chance, but you're right," she interrupted, making his heart stop. "You don't deserve another chance." Before he could respond, she continued, "But then again, neither do I. I should have fought harder, should have refused to let you sacrifice our love for some misguided sense of nobility. We both made mistakes, Samuel. The question is, what do we do now?" Sam pulled Elena's locket from his pocket, the silver catching the morning sunlight. "Now we make new promises, better ones." He opened the locket, and there was her photograph, just as young and beautiful as the day he'd left. But the woman sitting beside him was even more beautiful, stronger, wiser, tempered by heartbreak, but not broken by it. "Elena Vasquez," he said formally, slipping the locket's chain over her head. "Will you marry me? It's not because it's expected, or because it's a good business arrangement, but because you love me, and I love you, and we want to build a life together?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes, Samuel Rodriguez, I will marry you. For all the right reasons this time." They kissed then, soft and sweet, in the morning light, sealing a promise that should have been made 3 years ago. But their peaceful moment was shattered by the sound of approaching hoofbeats. A lot of them. They found us, Alina said. Her face going pale, Sam was already on his feet, helping her up. How many men does Mendoza have? Too many, Alina replied grimly. And Papa will have sent men after us too? Samuel, maybe you should go? I can face them alone. Tell them I forced you to help me. It's not a chance, Sam said, checking his pistol. We're in this together now, remember, for better or worse. The riders appeared over a ridge about a quarter-mile away, at least a dozen. Men, all armed and riding hard. At their head rode Carlos Mendoza, his face twisted with rage even at this distance. This way, Sam said, grabbing Esperanza's reins and leading both horses toward a narrow canyon that cut into the mountainside. If we can reach the rocks, we'll have cover. They mounted quickly and spurred their horses toward the canyon, but the pursuing riders were already closing the distance. These were fresh horses against mounts that had been ridden hard all night. Samuel, Lena called out as a rifle shot cracked across the desert air. They're shooting at us. Keep riding, Sam shouted back. Don't look back.
Oh.
They reached the mouth of the canyon just as another volley of shots rang out. Psst. Sam felt a bullet whine past his ear, close enough to part his hair. The canyon walls rose up around them, offering blessed protection from the rifles, but also trapping them in a dead end. What do we do now? Lena asked as they dismounted behind a large boulder. Sam studied their surroundings. The canyon was maybe 50 yards deep, with walls too steep to climb quickly. But there, at the far end, he could see what looked like a narrow trail leading up and over the ridge. Can you make it up that trail on foot? He asked. Alina followed. His gaze nodded. I think so. But what about you? I'm going to buy us some time, Sam said, pulling his rifle from its saddle holster. Go start climbing. I'll be right behind you. I won't leave you, Alina said fiercely. You're not leaving me. You're trusting me to follow. Sam cupped her face in his hands. Alina, I made the mistake of letting fear separate us once. I won't. Make it again. But right now, you need to go. She hesitated for just a moment, then kissed him hard and fast. Don't you dare die on me, Samuel Rodriguez. Not when we've just found each other again. As Alina began scrambling up the rocky trail, Sam positioned himself behind the boulder and checked his weapons. He had his rifle, his pistol, and maybe 20 rounds of ammunition total against 12 men. Those weren't great odds. The sound of hoofbeats echoed through the canyon as Mendoza and his men rode in. Sam could hear them talking, their voices bouncing off the stone walls. Spread out, Mendoza commanded. Check every hiding spot. I want them alive, but if they resist, kill the man and bring me the woman. What if she won't come quietly? One of the men asked. And we'll convince her. Mendoza replied, and Sam could hear the cruel smile in his voice. I have ways of making reluctant brides more ... cooperative. Rage burned through Sam like wildfire. He rose up from behind the boulder and took careful aim at Mendoza's chest. Looking for someone? He called out. Chapter 10. The standoff the canyon erupted in chaos as Sam's rifle cracked. Sending Mendoza diving from his saddle, the shot went. Wide intentionally, but it served its purpose of scattering the riders and giving Alina more time to climb. There. One of Mendoza's men shouted. Behind the big rock. Bullets began ricocheting off the stone around Sam, sending chips of granite flying. He ducked back down, counted to 3, then rose up and fired again. This time his aim was true, and one of the gunmen cried out and clutched his shoulder.
11 left.
Sam muttered to himself, reloading quickly. Rodriguez, Mendoza's voice, echoed through the canyon. You're trapped. Come out with your hands up, and I might let you live long enough to watch me marry your woman. Go to hell. Sam shouted back, punctuating his response with another rifle shot. He could see Alina about halfway up the trail now, moving steadily but carefully over the loose rock. She needed more time. You know what I think happened? Sam called out, his voice conversational despite the bullets flying around him. I think you got embarrassed yesterday, made to look like a fool in front of all those important people. It must have been hard, a big, strong man like you, getting outsmarted by a woman and a nobody ranch hand. The response was predictably furious. A volley of gunfire that forced Sam to press himself flat against the boulder. When it stopped, Mendoza's voice was tight with rage. "When I get my hands on you, Rodriguez, you're going to die very slowly. And when I'm done with you, I'm going to take Alina back to Santa Fe and make her my wife, whether she wants it or not. Every night, when she's crying in my bed, I'll remind her that it's your fault." Sam's vision went red. He rose up from cover, not caring about the danger, and put a bullet through the hat of the man closest to Mendoza. "Touch one hair on her head," Sam snarled, "and I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth." "Big words for a dead man," Mendoza replied, but Sam noticed that. The gunfire had stopped. He risked a quick look and saw why Lena had reached the top of the trail and was now clearly visible to the men below. She was too far away for them to shoot accurately, but close enough that Sam could see her waving to him. "Go!" she called. "Down." "The trail continues down the other side." Mendoza saw her too. "There she is. Martinez, you and Luis circle around. Try to cut her off on the other side of the ridge." Two of the gunmen spurred their horses out of the canyon, racing to get ahead of Alina. That left 10 men, but it also meant Alina was running out of time. Sam made his decision. He had maybe 6 shots left in his rifle and 6 in his pistol. It would have to be enough. "Mendoza," he shouted, "you want me? Come and get me." He broke from cover, running toward the trail while firing as he went. His first shot took down another gunman. His second went wide, but it made the others dive for cover. By the time they recovered and started shooting back, Sam was already scrambling up the rocky slope. Bullets whined around him, striking sparks off the stone. One grazed his leg, sending him stumbling, but he kept climbing. Behind him, he could hear Mendoza screaming orders and the sound of men beginning to follow on foot. The trail was steep and treacherous, barely wide enough for one person. Loose rocks shifted under his boots, threatening to send him tumbling back down into the canyon. But fear and desperation gave him strength, and he climbed faster than he would have thought possible. He was almost to the top when he heard the sound that made his blood freeze. Alina's scream, coming from somewhere on the other side of the ridge. "Alina." He shouted, throwing caution to the wind and hauling himself up the last few feet of the trail. What he saw when he crested the ridge made him want to kill every man in Mendoza's employ. Alina was about 50 yards down the far slope, trapped between 2 mounted gunmen who had their rifles trained on her. She had found a defensible position behind some rocks, but it was only a matter of time before they worked up the courage. To rush her? Let her go. Sam called out, raising his rifle. "Your fight is with me." One of the gunmen, Martinez, Sam assumed looked up at him and smiled coldly. "Drop your weapons, Rodriguez, or we kill the senorita right now." Sam could hear Mendoza and the others climbing up behind him. In a few minutes, they would reach the top of the ridge. Then it would all be over. Unless... Sam looked at the terrain around him and saw a possibility. The ridge they were on was part of a larger rock formation with steep cliffs on 3 sides. If he could get Alina to him, they might be able to make a stand in a more defensible position. But first, he had to deal with the 2 men threatening her. "Alina," he shouted. "When I say now, run toward me. Don't look back." "I can't," she called back. "They'll shoot me before I get 10 steps. "Trust me," Sam replied. "Just like last night, trust me." He could see her nod even at this distance. She was gathering herself, preparing to run. Sam took careful aim at Martinez and whispered a prayer. Then he shouted, "Now." Alina bolted from her hiding place, running uphill toward Sam as fast as she could manage on the loose rock.
"Martinez!"
And his partner immediately raised their rifles, but Sam was already firing. His first shot took Martinez in the chest, spinning him out of his saddle. His second shot spooked the other man's horse, sending it dancing sideways just as the rider pulled the trigger. The bullet meant for Alina went wide. She kept running. But now Sam was out of rifle ammunition, and he could hear Mendoza's men reaching the top of the ridge behind him. He drew his pistol and turned to face them just as the first gunman appeared over the crest. Chapter 11. The final stand. The next few minutes were chaos. Sam fired his remaining pistol rounds as quickly as he could aim, trying to keep Mendoza's men from gaining the ridge. He managed to wound 2 more of them, but then his gun clicked empty. Alina reached him just as the shooting stopped, both of them breathing hard and covered in dust.
"I'm this way," Sam said,
Grabbing her hand and leading her toward what looked like a narrow passage between two massive boulders. "There's a cave back here. We can make our stand." The passage opened into a small natural amphitheater, surrounded on three sides by stone walls too steep to climb. It was defensible, but it was also a trap once they were inside. There would be no way out, Samuel and Alina said, looking around at their refuge. "We're going to die here, aren't we?" Sam reloaded his pistol with his last 6 bullets, then checked his rifle. Maybe he could find some loose rocks to throw when the ammunition ran out. "Maybe," he said honestly. "But if we do, we'll die together. And Alina, I'd rather have 1 hour of life with you than 50 years without you." She smiled through her tears. "It's the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me. Even more romantic than climbing trees to court you. Much more romantic than that." They could hear Mendoza's men moving around outside the passage, calling to each other as they positioned themselves. Soon, they would rush the entrance, and it would all be over. "Lena," Sam said urgently, "there's something I need to tell you before Samuel Rodriguez." The voice that boomed across the desert was not Carlos Mendoza's. It was deeper, more authoritative, and it carried the unmistakable tone of lawful authority. It's Sheriff John Slaughter of Cochise County, Arizona Territory. "You and Miss Vasquez come out with your hands visible." Sam and Alina looked at each other in amazement. "Slaughter?" Lena asked. "How did he?" "I sent word to him before I left Arizona," Sam said. "Told him I might need help." "But how did he find us?" They moved carefully to the entrance of the passage and peered out. What they saw made Sam's heart leap with hope. At least 20 mounted men had surrounded the natural amphitheater, all wearing badges and carrying rifles. At their head sat Sheriff Slaughter, looking as calm and competent as ever. Mendoza's remaining men were scattered among the rocks, caught between the lawmen and the passage where Sam and Alina were hiding. Several of them had already thrown down their weapons and raised their hands in surrender. "Mendoza," Slaughter called out, "you're under arrest for kidnapping, assault, and attempted murder. Come out peacefully, and nobody else has to get hurt. You have no authority here."
Mendoza
Shouted back from wherever he was hiding. "This is New Mexico territory." "Funny thing about that," Slaughter replied conversationally. "Turns out you crossed the border into Arizona about 2 miles back, and in Arizona, I'm the law. Now, you can come out on your own, or my deputies can come in and get you. Your choice." Sam saw his chance. "Sheriff," called out, "it's Samuel. We're here in the rocks." "I see you, son. You and the lady just stay put for now. We'll have this sorted out in a few minutes." But Carlos Mendoza had other ideas. Sam heard the sound of boots on stone and turned to see the man himself climbing down into the passage behind them. His expensive suit was torn and dirty. His perfectly groomed hair was disheveled, and there was madness in his eyes. "If I can't, have you?" he snarled at Alina, raising his pistol. "Then no one can?"
"Ow."
Sam threw himself between Mendoza and Alina just as the gun fired. The bullet meant for her took him in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him to his knees. "Samuel," Alina screamed, but Sam wasn't finished. Even wounded, even with blood streaming down his arm, he managed to draw his own pistol. Mendoza was raising his gun for a second shot when Sam fired. The bullet caught Mendoza's center mass. He staggered backward, a look of surprise replacing the madness in his eyes. Tried to raise his gun one more time, but the strength was already leaving him. This isn't how it was supposed to end," he gasped. "No," Sam said, struggling to his feet with Elena's help. "It was supposed to end with you accepting that some things can't be bought or stolen. Love is one of them." Carlos Mendoza collapsed among the rocks, and the threat that had hung over Sam and Alina for so long was finally ended. Chapter 12. New. Beginning 6 months later, Sam stood on the porch of his ranch house outside Tombstone, watching the Arizona sunset paint the desert in shades of gold and crimson. His shoulder had healed well, though it still ached sometimes when the weather changed. "Samuel," Elena's voice came from behind him, warm with amusement. "Are you going to stand out there all evening, or are you coming in for supper?" He turned to see his wife, his wife, standing in the doorway, wearing a simple blue dress and an apron dusted with flour. Her dark hair was pinned back, and there was a smudge of something on her cheek that made her look absolutely beautiful. "Just enjoying the view," he said, walking over to kiss her. "Both views," he added, making her blush. They had been married. 3 days after the confrontation with Mendoza, in a simple ceremony performed by Father Miguel in the Church of San Miguel, Elena's father had disowned her, just as they had expected, but she didn't seem to mind. She had found something more valuable than wealth or social position. She had found love and the freedom to choose her own destiny. "The Hendersons sent another wedding gift today," Elena said, as they walked into the house together. "A set of china from back east." "That's nice of them," Sam replied. "Though I still don't understand why people keep sending us gifts 6 months after the wedding, 'cause they're happy for us," Elena said simply. "Because our story gives them hope that love can win, even against impossible odds." Their story had indeed become something of a legend in the territory. The tale of the runaway bride and the reformed coward who found each other again had been told and retold in saloons and churches from Santa Fe to Tucson. Most of the tellings were wildly exaggerated, but Sam and Elena didn't mind. If their love could inspire others to fight for their own happiness, then the attention was worth it. "There's something else," Elena said, turning to face him with a mysterious smile on her lips. "What's that?" "I got a letter from Dr. Martinez in Tombstone today. It's about those dizzy spells I've been having." Sam's heart clenched with worry. "Elena, if something's wrong, nothing's wrong," she interrupted, her smile growing wider. "In fact, everything is wonderfully, perfectly right. Samuel, we're going to have a baby." The words hit him like a thunderbolt. "A baby? Are you sure?" "Very sure," Elena said, laughing at his expression. "The doctor says everything looks fine, and I should expect to give birth sometime in the spring." Sam swept her up in his arms, spinning her around the small kitchen while she laughed and protested that he was being ridiculous. When he finally set her down, there were tears in his eyes. "A baby," he whispered, placing his hand gently on her still flat stomach. "Our baby, are you happy?" Elena asked softly. "Happy doesn't begin to cover it," Sam said. "Elena, 3 years ago I thought my life was over. I thought I'd lost the only thing that mattered to me. And now, ... Now I have everything I ever dreamed of and more than I ever dared hope for." That night, as they lay in bed listening to the desert wind sing,